AITA for not paying my sister $300 after she kicked me out with nowhere to go. She still wants me to pay. I never thought that moving in with my middle sister would turn into one of the most emotionally draining experiences of my life. At the time, I had just left my oldest sister's house because it was in the process of being sold, and I had nowhere else to go. My middle sister, who was 30 years old and a mother of two, had kindly offered me a place to stay. I was grateful beyond words. Before I moved in, I made sure to have a conversation with her about bills and responsibilities because I didn't want to be a burden. She assured me that I didn't have to worry about anything, that she would take care of the bills, and that my only focus should be my tattoo apprenticeship. At the time, I was just starting out in the tattoo industry, still an apprentice, and not making much money. I wasn't tattooing yet, but I would receive tips from my co-workers, just small amounts here and there. Even though she told me I didn't have to contribute financially, I still tried to help however I could. Any little bit of money I had, I gave to her. If she needed groceries, I would help. If a bill was due and she was struggling, I would give what I had. I even made sure to buy food for her and her kids when she couldn't afford it. It wasn't about money to me, I just wanted to show my appreciation for her letting me stay with her. Living with her, I did everything I could to help around the house. I picked up her kids from school, cleaned the apartment daily, made dinner before she got home from work, and did whatever I could to make things easier for her. I knew she had a lot on her plate, and I wanted to make sure I was contributing in the ways that I could. After some time, I managed to save enough money to buy a small used car. It was nothing fancy, but it was mine, and it gave me a sense of independence. The day I got it, my sister and I went to get it registered, and that's when I found out the tags were expired. There was a $300 fee to get everything straightened out, and I didn't have that kind of money on me at the moment. My sister looked at me and said, "I will take care of it." She didn't mention paying her back, didn't make it sound like it was a loan, she just offered to help, the same way I had helped her many times before. I assumed she was simply doing something nice for me the way I had done for her and her kids. For a while, everything was fine. It wasn't perfect, but I was doing my best to stay out of the way and help however I could. Then things started to change. My sister was going through problems with her husband, and it was clear she was under a lot of stress. At first, she was just moodier than usual, snapping at little things, getting irritated over nothing, but then it escalated. I became her emotional punching bag. Every night before bed, she would come to me and demand money. It wasn't a request. It wasn't a question. It was a demand. If I didn't give her money, she would threaten me. She would say things like, "If you don't pay me, I will throw all your belongings outside, and you'll need to find somewhere else to go because I don't want you here anymore." Hearing those words from my own sister broke me in ways I can't even describe. I would just sit there and cry, trying to understand how we had gotten to this point. I wasn't freeloading off of her. I had done everything I could to make her life easier, and yet she was treating me like I was some kind of burden. She started making cruel comments that cut deeper than anything. "You aren't my family," she said one night, her voice cold and detached. Another time, she told me, "I don't care about you, only my kids." I was devastated. This was the same sister who had once told me she would take care of me, that I didn't have to worry about anything. Now she was treating me like I was nothing. She gave me a deadline. A specific date. She told me that if I wasn't out by then, she would start throwing my things out onto the street. There was no discussion, no compromise, just an order. I had nowhere to go. No backup plan. I felt completely trapped in a place that was supposed to be my home, afraid that at any moment, she would make good on her threats and throw me out with nothing. Every night, I lay in bed, wondering how things had gone so wrong, wondering if there was something I could do to fix it, but the reality was, my sister had already made up her mind. And the worst part? I still loved her. Even after everything she said, after all the ways she made me feel unwanted, she was still my sister, and I couldn't understand why she was doing this to me. Update 1. I was exhausted to the point of breaking. Every night before going to bed, I lay there in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, my chest tight with anxiety. The air in that apartment felt suffocating, heavy with the weight of her words, her threats, her cold indifference. I never knew if that night would be the one where I woke up to find my belongings scattered outside, abandoned like I meant nothing. My heart pounded every time I heard her footsteps pass my door. I flinched at every sound, every movement, dreading the moment she would finally decide she'd had enough of my presence. Sleep didn't come easy, and when it did, it was restless, filled with the same recurring nightmare of being thrown out with nowhere to go. I realized then, I couldn't wait any longer. I couldn't keep living with the fear of being blindsided, of having my things thrown onto the pavement while I stood there helpless. I had to leave on my terms before she could take that last shred of control away from me. One morning, after another night of suffocating dread, I made my decision. No loud declarations. No dramatic goodbyes. Just quiet, calculated movements. The moment my sister left for work, I got out of bed and began to pack. Every motion felt surreal, like I was watching myself from the outside. I moved quickly, stuffing my belongings into a bag, hands shaking even though I was doing what I had to do. There was no time to think about what I was leaving behind. No space to dwell on the fact that this was my own sister, someone who had once told me she would take care of me, someone I had trusted. The reality was, I wasn't safe there anymore, not emotionally, not mentally. I had been hanging on by a thread, and if I stayed any longer, I wasn't sure if I would ever feel like myself again. I grabbed my bag, my heart pounding so hard it echoed in my ears. There was no final glance around the room. No hesitation. I walked out, locked the door behind me, and got into my little car. When the engine rumbled to life, I let out a shaky breath. My hands were still trembling when I put it into drive and pulled away from the place I had called home, not knowing where I was going, just knowing I had to go. I drove in silence, my mind replaying everything that had happened over the past few months. The threats, the nights spent crying, the way she looked at me as if I was nothing. It hit me all at once, the weight of it, the bitterness, the painful truth that I had been pushed out by my own family. It didn't feel like freedom. It felt like rejection, like I had been discarded the moment I was no longer convenient to keep around. A few hours passed before my phone rang. I saw Emily's name on the screen and hesitated before answering. Her voice was filled with concern the second I picked up. She asked why I hadn't told her, why I had just left without a word. There was something about the way she spoke, like she already knew the answer, like she had suspected things weren't okay but hadn't wanted to pry. I told her everything. Every threat, every cruel comment, every moment of fear I had felt in that apartment. She was silent for a few seconds after I finished, and I could picture her, jaw clenched, trying to keep her anger in check. Then she finally spoke, her voice firm in a way that left no room for argument. "That's wrong. She had no right to treat you like that." An hour later, she called Stephanie. I didn't know what was said, but I knew Emily, and I knew she wasn't going to let it slide. She had always been the kind to stand up for what was right, and I had no doubt she told Stephanie exactly what she thought about the way she had treated me. I didn't expect an apology, I wasn't even sure I wanted one, but when I finally checked my phone, all I saw was a single text from Stephanie: "I didn't think you'd actually leave." That was it. No acknowledgement of what she had done. No regret. Just that one cold, dismissive line. As if she thought I would just take it. As if she thought I would endure her threats and cruelty forever, without ever reaching a breaking point. I stared at the message for a long time before locking my phone and tossing it onto the passenger seat. I felt empty. Drained. But beneath that, there was relief, too. I wasn't in that toxic environment anymore. I wasn't waiting for the next night to bring another round of threats, another reminder that I wasn't wanted. The relief, however, was quickly overshadowed by reality. I had nowhere to go. I spent the next few nights sleeping in my car, parked in a supermarket parking lot. It wasn't comfortable. It wasn't safe. It wasn't sustainable. But at least it was mine. At least no one could threaten to throw me out of it. I tried to find a place to live, but rent in the city was impossibly high, far beyond what I could afford. The money I had wasn't enough, and I was painfully aware of how limited my options were. I had been hoping to figure something out on my own, to find a way to stand on my own 2 feet, but when Emily found out I was sleeping in my car, she didn't give me a choice. She called me, her voice laced with that no-nonsense tone she always used when she had made up her mind. "I can't leave you on the street, come," she said. I hesitated, guilt creeping in. I didn't want to be a burden, but there was no other way out. Update 2. 2 weeks had passed since I left. The first few days were a blur of exhaustion and uncertainty, my body still caught in a cycle of stress I had lived in for months. But slowly, I began to come to my senses. I started to feel like I could breathe again, like I was finally in control of my own life. There was no more walking on eggshells, no more waiting for the next verbal attack, no more feeling like I was nothing but an unwanted guest in a home where I had done everything I could to contribute. But one thing didn't change: Stephanie's messages. At first, they were just demanding. Every day, without fail, my phone would light up with her name, the words blunt and emotionless. She wanted the $300 she had paid for my car registration. She said I owed her, that she had done me a favor and I had to pay her back. I ignored her at first, hoping she would get tired of yelling into the void and move on. But she didn't. She only got worse. Then she made her husband start messaging me too. As if getting texts from one person wasn't enough, now there were two of them, both pressing me from different angles, acting as though I had committed some great betrayal. He sent messages about how I had no conscience, how they had helped me and I had just run away. As if I had left by choice, as if I hadn't been given an ultimatum and forced out. They talked about family, about how I was abandoning them, about how they had done so much for me and I was proving how little I cared. It was infuriating. After everything she had said to me, after the nights I spent crying in my room, after she made me feel like an outsider in my own family, now she wanted to act like I was the one who had turned my back on her. Like I was the one who had done something wrong. And when the guilt-tripping didn't work, the threat started. She told me that if I didn't give her the money, she would find a way to make sure everyone knew how ungrateful I was. She would tell the family, tell people we knew, make sure everyone saw me as the villain. She made it sound like she had some kind of power over me, like she could still control me even after I had left. It didn't matter that I had already given her more money than I ever should have. It didn't matter that I had spent months helping her, giving every bit of extra cash I had for groceries, bills, and food for her kids. It didn't matter that I had picked up her children from school, cleaned her apartment, cooked dinner every night so she wouldn't have to. None of it mattered. The moment I was out of her house, I was nothing but a debt to her. The stress started creeping back in. Even though I was out of her house, I felt like I couldn't escape. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach twisted. Every time I saw her name pop up, my heart pounded, my hands clenched into fists. I thought leaving would be the end of it, but she had found another way to sink her claws into me, another way to make me feel small. One day, after another barrage of messages, I finally broke. I had ignored her long enough, hoping she would get bored and stop, but it was clear she wouldn't. I typed out a response, my fingers shaking with frustration. I told her I didn't owe her anything, that she had offered to pay for the registration herself, that I had already given her far more than I should have while I was living there. I hit send and felt a brief sense of relief, like I had finally said what I needed to say. Her response was immediate, and it made my blood run cold. She told me I wasn't going to get out of this situation. There was no reasoning with her. No logic, no fairness, no acknowledgement of everything I had already done for her. It was just another way to make me feel trapped, another way to make me feel like I would never be free of her, no matter how far away I was. I stared at my phone, feeling the exhaustion settle deep in my bones. I was tired of the messages, tired of the guilt, tired of the stress that followed me even after I had escaped. I had spent months being drained, worn down, manipulated, and even now, she was still trying to keep her grip on me. I was just exhausted. Update 3. Another week passed, and the situation became unbearable. The sense of relief I had expected after leaving her house never fully came. I was out, yes, but she wasn't done with me. No matter how much I tried to ignore her, Stephanie refused to let go. The messages kept coming, relentless, as if she had made it her personal mission to drag me back into the cycle of manipulation and control. Every time my phone buzzed, my chest tightened with an anxious dread, knowing that on the other end of the screen was another demand, another guilt trip, another attempt to force me into submission. There was never a break, never a moment where I could truly breathe. It was like she had found a way to haunt me, to invade my life even when she wasn't physically there. Each message carried the same exhausting pattern. First, the demand. She wanted her $300, the money she had voluntarily given, now transformed into an unshakable debt she was determined to collect. Then came the accusations, harsh, cutting words designed to make me feel like I was the villain in a story where she had been the benevolent savior. She told me I was selfish, ungrateful, a terrible sister who had abandoned the very people who had helped me. The hypocrisy of it burned. After all the nights she had made me feel worthless, after all the times she had told me I wasn't her family, now suddenly, I was expected to uphold some sacred bond. I blocked her number, thinking that would be the end of it, that she would finally give up and let me go. But she wasn't the type to take no for an answer. Almost immediately, a new message appeared from an unknown number. It was her. She had found another way to reach me, slipping past the boundary I had set as if it meant nothing. It wasn't just persistence, it was an obsession. She was determined to keep her grip on me, no matter how many times I pushed her away. I blocked that number too, but it didn't stop her. Another one appeared. Then another. Every time I thought I had severed the last thread tying me to her, she found a new one to weave back in. It was endless. Frustrated and desperate to escape the constant harassment, I changed my number. For the first time in weeks, I felt a fleeting sense of peace, believing that maybe, finally, I had outmaneuvered her. The silence was unnerving at first, but I welcomed it, craving the stillness, the absence of her looming presence in my life. But the relief was short-lived. It took only a few days before she found another way in. This time, it was social media. A direct message from an account she rarely used, her words dripping with the same entitled venom. She told me I had betrayed her, that I had cut her out like she was nothing. She told me I had no conscience, that I was abandoning my family over something as small as money. The gaslighting was relentless, twisting reality in a way that made me second-guess my own decisions. And always, there was the same demand, her $300. It wasn't about the money. It never had been. It was about control. It was about making sure I still danced to her tune, that I still felt the weight of her presence pressing down on me. She wanted to remind me that I couldn't just walk away, that no matter how far I ran, she would find me, force me to engage, force me to acknowledge her. The money was just the excuse to keep reaching out, to keep prodding at my weak spots, to keep reminding me that she had power over me. I was exhausted. Every notification sent a jolt of panic through me, a conditioned response from months of walking on eggshells. Every unexpected message filled me with the same suffocating anxiety I thought I had left behind. I couldn't relax, couldn't move on, because she wouldn't let me. She had made sure that even after I physically left, she could still trap me in the same twisted dynamic. In the end, I realized there was only one way to end it. It wasn't fair. It went against everything in me that wanted to stand my ground, to prove that I didn't owe her anything, that I wouldn't be manipulated into giving her what she wanted. But I couldn't keep living like this. I couldn't keep waking up every morning with the sinking feeling that another message would be waiting for me, another attack, another way for her to drain me of any remaining energy I had left. I had escaped her house, but not her grasp. And the only way to truly be free was to give her what she wanted, to shut the door so firmly that there was no way for her to pry it open again. I transferred the $300 and sent a single message. I told her here was her money, and now she needed to leave me alone. The response came almost instantly, and reading it made my stomach churn. She told me she knew I owed her, that it was good I had finally come to my senses. There was no gratitude, no acknowledgement of everything I had already done for her, no recognition of the sacrifices I had made while living under her roof. Just smug satisfaction, as if she had won, as if she had proven something. Anger rose in me, sharp and bitter, but I refused to give her the satisfaction of a response. Instead, I blocked her. Not just her number. Everywhere. Social media, email, any possible way she could use to reach me. I erased her from my life with the same cold finality she had shown me when she told me I wasn't her family. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt true relief. There was no more waiting for the next message, no more sinking feeling when I saw her name on my screen, no more being forced to engage in a fight I had never wanted to be a part of. Did it hurt to lose my sister? Yes. But was it necessary? Absolutely. Somewhere deep down, I had always known it would end this way. Family was supposed to be about love, about support, about respect. She had given me none of those things. She had used me, discarded me, and then hunted me down when she realized she could still wring something out of me. That wasn't family. If I had learned anything from this situation, it was that family wasn't about blood. It was about the people who treated you with love and respect. And she had proven, in every way that mattered, that she was not my family.